Should
So
be.
that happen, let's let's support our growth and development as individuals by supporting Amelia. And that's the great thing about this book is when you invest in it, you will be investing in yourself as well as helping Amelia propel forward. So everybody click the link, grab a copy. Let's go.
Love you, Glenn. Love you, love you. So last week we had a lot of fun in the back chat. So I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. As we go in, we've got Tara and Tony and a bunch of people watching the back chat. So if you've got a question, please chime in. We had a lot of movement last week with people just saying, yeah, but what about this or what about that or what, right? So if you ask the question, I promise you I'll lead you right to the answer and also give you a behavior modification tool. So Tony, you want to kick us off?
Yes, let's do that. So welcome everyone. Good morning, Amelia. Good morning, Glenn. Good morning, everyone on Clubhouse, and good morning to everyone in the social media world. We are streaming to Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So those, if anybody in Clubhouse would like to watch live. Sorry, I just realized my mic was a little too far away. Hope you guys can hear me okay. So if you'd like to watch us live, you can certainly head over to YouTube. Just go to Amilya.com. Just find Amelia. You can find me as well on YouTube. Just hashtag Get Up and Grow on YouTube and on Facebook and certainly on LinkedIn. So thank you all for joining us on those platforms as well as Clubhouse. We will be taking questions from Clubhouse, and if anybody on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn has a question, we have people monitoring that as well, so we can answer it. Of course, we'd always ask you on Clubhouse to put your questions in the chat. We're having that monitored, and then we'll bring some people up so we can have the one-on-one interactions with Amelia. Of course, the title of the show is What Would Amelia Do? Just using those genius keys and the wisdom that she's garnered over the last 20 or 30 years as a human behaviorist. To be able to change your business and your life and your mindset and everything in between. So of course I'm here as well as our other trainers and other people that are directly connected with Genius Key, and we are here to support you, support this room. So we'd ask you, of course, to also support this room. If you're on Clubhouse, make sure that you're clicking that little box at the bottom of the screen. Share this to your hallway so we can bring more people in. You can also ping people individually. You can share on Facebook, of course, if you're watching live, or even if you're on Clubhouse, you can share to Facebook, you can share it to LinkedIn, you can share to Twitter and other spaces, because my friends, we can change the course of somebody's life, their business, their relationships by bringing them into the right room to have the right conversations with the right people. And this, my friends, is that room. So let's make sure that we're sharing this room everywhere so that we can impact as many people as possible. So with that said, we also have a link tied at the top of the Clubhouse room where you can click and get your book, Designing Genius. And of course, if you're watching on the other social media channels, we have the link streaming across the bottom of the screen. So again, thank you all for being here. Amelia,
Tony,
let's kick it off.
The good thing about the book is if you join us on the pre-sale part of this, you're going to get 3 Zoom calls that are going to really allow me to work closely with you. We're jumping into one of the calls is diving deeply into parenting. We've got a lot of disconnect right now as we've got a lot of kids graduating, going off to college, and they have 0 life skills. So we've got a whole Zoom that is dedicated to parenting. We have another one which is dedicated to money. There's a lot of stuff in that. Glenn was talking about prior to coming in his, the EFT model, right? And understanding that EFT model, which is recurring revenue, is awesome. And we'll talk about the EFT. We'll talk about infomercial. We'll talk about upsells and selling online and back of the room, front of the room, pushing to the stage, automations, all that kind of stuff. Taking money off the table and being able to take and invest dollars so you can go from $1,000 to $10,000, all that stuff. So we're going to have a whole call that's addressed to money, and then a whole call that's addressed to relationship. Those calls are only for the pre-sale. Once the book actually drops, then it's just the book is the book, which we love the book, but having the book along with the actual topics that you're going to find in there, which is all different types of behavior modification tools. We ran over some of them last week, and I want to dive into what I was really seeing that was happening in the back chat and then through some of the other things. So first and foremost, if you're trying to talk to me, again, we have somebody watching the chat, or you can grab us here online. Tara is also here. If you grab her, she's grabbing questions too. I cannot don't DM me on my Instagram, because I'm only like, whatever it is, 10,000 behind. So I'm not watching that.
Yeah, and by the way,
But
if you guys like the content that's being shared today and last week and every Friday by Amilya, it is in that book, right? There's exercises, there's so many things, and of course, for the first 100 people, you get those private Zooms that are going to absolutely change the game.
So here's where there was confusion, and I always get that, right? So what happens is, once I can start opening up your peripheral, right, awareness, things that you can't see right at this second while you're listening to me starts to kind of come into view. And we were talking last week, and I've been talking about this idea of something, right? This is where the land of the abyss starts. Fortunately or unfortunately, most of the people don't have a lot of these life skills. So what happens is, when you're looking at me, or you're looking at somebody that you like or admire, you're looking at the idea of them, not who they actually are. This is what happens when we start relationships. So we start a relationship, and you start to fall in love with the idea of somebody. And then when you actually see evidence of who they really are, it starts the conflict. To make this easier to understand, it's like the idea of marriage. The idea of marriage sounds great, because the idea of it, you're thinking, oh my God, I got a snuggle buddy at bed, and somebody to watch TV with, and vacation with, and somebody else to help me with the chores. You're thinking about the idea of marriage. You're not thinking about the actual lift and work in a marriage, which is all the other stuff that the brain doesn't want to bring on the radar. Same thing when you think about the idea of money. The idea of money, you're thinking planes and yachts, and I have no stress. Well, none of that's true either, right? The more money you make, the higher the responsibility, different kinds of stress, right? So the stress at somebody who's making $100,000, right, from 0 to 5, that stress is a 3. But somebody who's making $1 million, it's different stress, and their stress is still at a 3. When you're making $1 billion, right, you would think, oh, I have no problems now. No, you have bigger problems,
better quality problems,
and they're still at a 3. And so I just want to lean in here this morning. I had to check for a second to see if it was still morning, right? Hang on. Check this morning to kind of lean into this concept of what happens when it's the idea of you. And the reason why I want to do that is that if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel like I just can't seem to get out of the sludge, right? What is happening is this idea of you. Last week, we did one of the decoding sessions on one of our Genius G100 sisters. We did an exercise called Letter to Our Friends. And in analyzing the letters that came back, it screamed, I'm going to suck the living life right out of you, right? The minute that she could see that the energy she built around her in her friend and family circle is so draining. Not that they're not wonderful people, they're wonderful people. But there's an imbalance, because the imbalance is coming from the idea of her. And the idea of her is, well, you're a giver and you're a lover and you fix my problems and you're always there to listen, and the pull and the pull and the pull and the pull. And there's nothing in her circle that fills back up, right? Because people are in love with the idea of her. And when she speaks her truth to say, listen, I also would like to, take a walk around the block. I would also like to have, we reject that because that's not matching the idea of you. So I'm going to pause here for just a second. I know I've got Tara and Patricia, and I saw Jackie this morning. I think Marianne. I want to bring in some of the sisters that were listening to the decoding session that we were doing to kind of chime in with this idea of, and again, just before I go too far, we are hitting city. Your marriage, wouldn't that be fun? Coming into your family, we're doing a lot of decoding sessions there. If you are part of Toastmasters or any of those groups that actually kick off, I may be like your toy pet to bring to your meeting so that we can do the behavior modifications right there live and in person, because there's nothing better than me doing it in your own life. So bring me in. and let's do it there. So let's bring in some of the sisters. Anybody who was part of the decoding last week that we were doing, just chime in, open up your mic.
And by the way,
hi, Amelia. It's Lisa.
Hello, Lisa.
How are you?
Good. Good morning.
Good morning. I was explaining my homework to one of my girlfriends that I asked why was she friends with me. Stephanie, her birthday's today. We were 2 days apart, and we've known each other since we were 4. And she and I've gone through some similar experiences with family in terms of just the behaviors and how they have came at us for different reasons. And I was explaining to her what I'm learning from you, and she was like, "Oh my gosh!" So I just sent her the link to your book. I said, as I keep learning, I'll keep sharing. But it is, what she was sharing with me is her family is attacking her for a choice that she made to keep quiet as she progressed through a divorce, and they found fault with her that she didn't share, and they constantly berate her for this, and it's gone on for 3 years, and she's at such a loss because she has 3 sisters and feels like she's alone. And I was trying to, of course, I'm so new with all this, what I'm gathering from you, but I was trying to explain to her what you taught me in terms of being able to love one and forgive them for how they're hurting, and saying you're sorry for how they're hurting, but not accepting the behavior that they give to you, especially when it's based out of fear, and that you can love them from afar until they're willing to actually have that hard conversation.
Yep, and there's a whole chapter on there. We call it the rules of the game. But first of all, thank you. I thank you so much for chiming in this morning. You filled my soul so much. I did like a huge happy dance and everything after we got off the call last week. Because I was like, I love when people get it, when they're like, wow, I see it now, right? So first and foremost, I want to be able to, for those people who are listening, I want you just to really just take a minute to let what I'm going to say land. Happy people, happy energy never comes with judgment. If you're happy, you're happy. And you don't throw anything other than positivity over on other people. People who are unhappy criticize. They criticize because they're trying to release the energy that is balled up on them, and they just need to like verbally throw up on other people. And so somebody who is unhappy, there is nothing you can do to fix their unhappy. Happiness is something that is shared, and it's something that is located from inside. And in these family dynamics, where you have a lot of criticism, a lot of what you should do, a lot of opinions, a lot of that, what you have to first take a breath and realize is, wow, you really seem very unhappy. Because they're not unhappy about your choice. They're not unhappy about what you're doing. They're not unhappy about the decisions that you're making. They are just unhappy, period. And they're always going to find a way to go back to that center of being unhappy. In the book, we talk about this personality type is called a fault finder. They wake up in the morning and they look for something to be wrong. Their whole mental subconscious is to find something that is wrong, to validate for them why they are a victim. See, I knew it. Look at that. You forgot the napkins on the table. They didn't see a beautiful meal, all the wonderful happy faces. No. What they're zooming in on is what is at fault. And so fault finders, you cannot fix. Say it again. Fault finders, you cannot fix. But what you can do is step away, move back, because you then become the thing that they're going to look for to find more fault, because that's the food that they eat. They are waiting for people to come into their lives for them to point out all the things that are wrong with you. And that is rooted in the fact that I am so miserable with myself. Can I get an amen?
Amen. Yeah, they've certainly got to. Yeah, they've certainly got to do that inner work themselves. It's not something. If you've got the skills, you may be able to guide them through that to see some of those faults. But until they're ready to prepare themselves, and if you can't even. You can't.
It's like an alcoholic. Okay. Once an alcoholic says, okay, I'm an alcoholic. Now we can have a relationship. Until they get to the place, which is rock bottom, they can't hear you, and there's nothing you can do. You cannot save somebody who isn't willing to realize they need to be saved, right? And so what I want you to understand here, right, from the behavior modification tools, is you need to have two buckets of thinking at all times. This person in front of me is happy and full, or this person is looking to suck the life out of me because they are unhappy. Don't trade your happiness to fix somebody who cannot be fixed. They cannot be fixed until they come to you and go, listen, I am so unhappy. I am in so much pain. And here is what I'm doing to get myself to the next place. Until you can hear them say the words, this is what I'm doing. See, then they're going to just suck on you. They're energy vampires, right? They have to come to the conclusion of what they need to be doing differently to change what is happening internally, because happiness is not found, it is built.
Yeah, it is certainly an inside job. You know, it's not something you find
Corey?
externally.
Hey, Corey, is that you?
Yeah.
Hey, good morning, Corey. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing good. The thing about the letters to our friends that Lisa did, she did, an amazing job being able to select those people. For someone who's doing that exercise, when the words came back, they sounded really nice. They sounded great. Like, she's loyal and she is a kind person and very trustworthy. And so someone who doesn't know how to really evaluate how those letters are coming back, how would they know to look that those are draining letters?
That's awesome. That's a great question. And again, we try to dive into it. And again, that's why I encourage everybody to spend 15 minutes with one of the trainers, because they do it live. That's part of the reason why I'm going out on the road, is to sit and go live with people to be able to decode that. So there are two types of energy, right? All energy is needed. Everything that basically has a pulse or is living, plant, everything has energy. And the energy is either giving or it's receiving back, right? It's kind of like an infinity loop. You got to send your energy out. It lands on something else. That something else amplifies it and then gives it back to the individual. And then I receive it. I must learn how to receive, not just give. And then I amplify it with my genius and I go back. And that's how the infinity loop goes back and forth. When you're looking at the words that people use to describe you, you need to put them in a bucket of, are those words of being, right? Or are those words of doing? And that is what's going to start to show you if you have imbalance in the energy that is around you in the giving and the taking. So let me give you an example. When we looked at Lisa's letters that came back, all of the descriptive, like 99% of them, were words of being, right? Which means emotional words. Well, if you surround yourself with emotional energy, and that's all you surround yourself in is emotional energy, even though that energy has the greatest intentions, you're sinking because you don't have enough of the doing energy to move forward and grow. One energy is feeling, being, spiritual, awareness, all positive, all needed. And the other energy is rooted in doing, implementing, executing. And so when you get letters back, you should see evidence of equal proportion, right? Equal proportion of people that are going to say, okay, I heard what you do. Here's the next couple of steps, right? And so the other people that kind of go, oh, I heard what you said. Here's what's going on. And if not, you're slowly dying and you just don't know it. Did that, Corey, did that kind of start to see how you analyze what you're reading back? Because I know there's a whole section in the book, and examples and stories of what that actually means, but it's important for people to understand how to analyze what is happening. Because if you don't know what is happening, then you can't really make the decisions. And so many people spin in noise and noise and noise. They attract noise and they drown in noise because they're asking people who do not have what they're looking to achieve for their opinion. And I say it 1,000 times. Your advice is worth a dime. Your experience is worth millions. And so one of my should and should nots is I don't want your advice about anything. What I want is your experience. So it should sound something like, I heard what you said, Amilya, and from my experience, here is what was at the table. This is the decision I made, and here was the outcome. Now we're having a conversation. If you're giving me your opinion, you're killing me slowly because you have no idea what you would do in this situation. Nobody does. All you know is what you did in a similar situation. So immediately, as a behavior modification, immediately remove any advice. Don't ask for advice, don't listen to advice, and do not let it land in your brain because it is noise. It is noise. You want to build a community who can share experiences that are just ahead of you and then all the way at the finish line. What did you do? What did you learn? What would you have done differently? Tell me the road that you do know, because the road you didn't take is theory. How's that sound? Maybe? Is it landing on anybody?
Oh, I think it's perfect. And I mean, I appreciate everything that you had said before about positive and negative energy that keeps us moving. But what you just said about life experience and being able to be ahead of some of those, and the opportunity to teach is the opportunity to learn more and deeper about what you're doing. So I also love what Lisa's doing, practicing with her friends these same tools.
Lisa's exercise, she did that exercise perfectly. And then being able to be open. Again, remember, then you've got to not only do the exercise, you have to be able to be open to see it from all perspectives. See, if you're going to defend your position, you're never going to learn. And a lot of people are more committed to being right than they are committed to seeing what's happening, right? I can't tell you how many people get in front of me, and here is an amazing opportunity for me to immediately elevate your life, and they want to get in front of me and defend their position. Okay, you're right. You win. Now what? Because if you want to be right, okay, you can be right. But do you want to grow? Because if you want to grow, you have to lean in to what I see. That doesn't mean I'm right, but I'm sharing a perspective that's out of your view. The more you see awareness, the more you can have will to take action. Awareness, will, and action. AWA. Who else would like to lean in? Yeah, go for it.
I do. This is Patricia.
Hey, my partner in crime here.
We're always in communication in some way.
I know,
whether it's on a stage or on the phone.
Congratulations on the graduation.
Yes, thank you. So this is something I wanted to talk about. So we're talking about the idea of me, and so many of us are parents. And I love the conversations we've been having this last few weeks about kids, and also the pieces of the book that we're working on around this kind of idea of me when it comes to parenting. And this really ties into also what you were just talking about of, advice versus experience. So I don't want to speak for my husband because he's here, and if I'm wrong, then he's going to be able to know that. But
Good morning, everyone.
But we have a 15-year-old, right? And so he's one of those kids that always is tested really high on standardized tests. And if you live in Florida, that's all you do is take standardized tests, and has been told and guided and said that he's extremely smart and put into honors classes. He's also got, athletic ability that he's been told for basketball to do this and this. So, in the old parenting style, a parent would sit there and say, okay, this is what they're good at. And even when the kid resisted in these areas and said, no, I'm more interested in these other things. And as a parent, we're like, but school comes so easy, or basketball comes so easy, or this thing, this is what you're good at, right? We would start fearing and we'd start dumping advice on somebody, even though maybe that was not our experience. Like, I wasn't athletic, as a kid, I would have loved it. So it'd be very easy for me to push that on him and sort of vicariously live through him, because I like the idea of having an athletic son, or an idea of having a kid that's in all honors classes. And what's happened with doing this work is, what we're really doing is we're tapping in and opening up the line of communication with him to discover not what is our idea of him, because if I just looked at him on paper, what I would be steering him to is not what he wants to do, and it is really not in his zone of genius. And so opening up this connection. So one of the things we do is every Wednesday, Scott takes one of the boys out to dinner. I take the other boy out to dinner. It's something the kids look forward to. And it gives us one-on-one conversation to really talk about the things that they're interested in, not what we're interested in. And our 15-year-old wants to be an entrepreneur. He works on a business. He's self-taught on things. And this is where he wants to spend his time and energy. And so I think as a parent, these tools in this book and tapping into really getting to know your kids, and not always giving advice where we don't have the experience to back it up and we're not listening first, but instead listening and just sharing our experience maybe at that age, or our experience in that particular area, or finding somebody that has that experience to deliver that message, is so important, because you will notice how they look at you, that they're really listening and processing when you come to your kids, no matter what their age is, with a mutual respect for who they are and what they really want, even if it's not what you want or what you see. And so to me, that is such an important area of that book, of using those tools, not only just on your marriage, your relationships, your work, your money, but it's this next generation of people that we're bringing up, and it's so easy to be disconnected from. And there's such easy quick fixes, just like those Wednesday night dinners and, conversation starters and things that we have in that book, that it's things you can do in the car when you're driving home from school, that are going to make the biggest difference as they get older, and teen years and all the other things, to really help build really positive relationship with our kids. So I just wanted to share that today.
Well, and we're seeing it, right? I mean, I'm working so closely with both you and Scott, and I'm working with so many kids right now, so many kids, because the school year's ending. Parents are getting anxious because their kids are now sophomore and they're not doing well in school, or they're just getting ready to go to college. And these kids have been in therapy for years. And I have been able to move into a family, not literally move in, but come into a family, teach behavior modification, and these kids are moving through so quickly. I've just had a whole group that I've been able to move in less than 90 days. And these kids have been in therapy for so long with no measurable progress. And I do it on day one. I mean, the minute they meet me and I go in and I start moving around the things in the house, behavior modification tools, everything in the family dynamic changes. And the guidelines is what guides the growth, to allow you to see each individual in the house for who they are, not who you want them to be. And that is the problem with parents. Right? It's a bad analogy. It's the one I give all the time. If you buy a dog and you take a dog to puppy training, the training isn't for the puppy. The training is for the owner. I go into families, and it's not to fix the kids. It's to fix the parents who are trying to raise the kids, because they don't have the life skills that are needed for this generation. Parents are trying to use old, antiquated tools that worked back in the 50s and 60s on their kids today, and wonder why it's not working, because it's the wrong tool, it's the wrong behavior, and it's also the understanding of the rites of passage that these kids are moving through. A lot of times what the parents are fighting against is actually where behaviorally they are in development. So once you understand that this behavior equals this actual proper growth, and then how to communicate with what's going on in that behavior, then everything changes. And it's quick. That's what I love about what we're teaching. It's quick. And that's what we need nowadays, is to move very quickly with understanding what is happening and what is happening on my side, and what am I going to do, and what is happening on your side, and what you are going to do. And so you're going to find these games in the book: the letters to the friend, the conflict corner, the project board, right? The analysis, the analyzing of words that are spoken and what do they actually mean, and all these kinds of stuff are all in the game. And we love it because we get so much positive feedback. I mean, I got a huge letter from one of the parents, from the school counselor, right? We're in the home stretch here, and they were like, we don't know what happened to your son, but these last 8 weeks, he's done more in school than he has done his entire high school career. Now, did he all of a sudden become a genius? No. But what we did was we got an opportunity to mirror his genius and provide the tools for him to amplify it and move away from the idea of him that was being projected by his family, by his brothers, by his school, and by his friends. Guess what else happened? He also moved away from the pack that wasn't actually serving his genius. I didn't go in and go, stop being friends with these losers. I mirrored for him, and then he came to the conclusion, these kids aren't going anywhere, and I have something to offer, and I'm going to go live my life. And so he chose it. I didn't choose it. He chose it. But that's exactly what the parents were fearful of, that he was hanging around the wrong kids. Well, when I was able to show the parents why they were pushing him right to those wrong kids by the noise and the energy they were creating in their home. So the kid was self-medicating with that new energy, which was the energy they didn't want. So all of this razzmatazz, easily found. Click the link, join our Zooms that we're having for the people who are pre-ordering, and let's have some fun. Let's have some fun just building a life by design. I mean, that's what let's just design genius.
Yes, yes, and yes. Let me just jump in, do a quick room reset here, and just invite everybody to click the link up at the top, pre-order that book. Again, the first 100 people get those private Zooms with Amilya, and everything that you've been hearing today about the family dynamics, children, money, all of it is in the book, and a lot of those things are going to be discussed in those conversations. So we ask you at this time, if you're enjoying this conversation, and I know you are because we're here every Friday and so are you, make sure that you're inviting other people into this conversation. Thank you for those of us joining us on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. We invite you to share the video. Just click that little share button and share it. If you're on Clubhouse, we invite you to hit that little box at the bottom of the screen with the arrow. Make sure you're sharing this to your hallway so that we can wake up that algorithm and get more people into this room. And of course, we invite you to invite people in individually as well, because again, by inviting people to this conversation, which again is essential, we can, of course, change the trajectory of their relationships, the relationships and the people around them, business, everything, just change their overall happiness. So make sure that you're inviting people into this conversation. Of course, we are here every Friday at 9 a.m., 9 to 10 a.m., talking about what will Amilya do. And of course, we are back after 9 a.m. Of course, we have the amazing Dave Meltzer coming on for an hour, and then we're back again with another amazing guest. And today we're going to be talking about money and the relationship with that, right? So make sure that you're back with us. Stay till 11 or come back for 11 o'clock so that we can continue our growth and talk about genius and explore all of those genius keys with the one and only Amilya Antonetti. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, we've got some interesting. So I'm trying to read in the back chat. So asking a question about, do you still use the phrase "in my experience" is something that you've witnessed, right, with a child and or a client, not actually your own experience? What a brilliant question that is. I don't know who that is, but she is brilliant, right? That's great insight. So first of all, I just like her already because she's got the insight to understand what is happening. So your language has to match what you're offering, right? And so if you and I are having a dialogue, right? Well, perfect example, right? So right now I'm going through the after effects of my ex-husband taking suicide. Not a happy thing, right? And so I can't have a dialogue with somebody who goes, well, yeah, I committed suicide too, and here's what was going on. That's not possible because they're not here. But what I can do is have a dialogue with somebody to go, hey, listen, I am also, right, my brother, my sister, whoever it was, that you're in a similar situation, and you can describe, what the relationship was, right? So I had a relationship with my ex that gives me a perspective on him and this decision, which is very different than my child's perspective on it, which is very different than some of my other Clubhouse sisters who've gone through the same thing, right? So you have to just first announce where you're looking at the story from. So if it's like, hey, listen, I had a client who did or went through a similar thing, and here's what I witnessed in the client, right? I witnessed the fact that they went through depression, or that they withdraw, whatever the thing is. I just need to understand as the listener, how do I receive your information so that I can then determine the importance of what you're saying? That's the most important. The most valuable content is the person who is walking in the shoes that you are walking in and has succeeded through the other side, right? So if you are going through, let's just say, financial hardship because you lost your job, and you're talking to somebody who says, yes, I went through financial hardship because I lost my job, and then here's what I did, and let me show you the evidence of where I am now. Now, that is somebody I want to give the most amount of weight to because they're in my experience and they won, versus somebody who's giving you advice because they're in the same experience, but they haven't won yet. They're giving the advice of what they're doing or what they're planning on doing, but there's no evidence they've succeeded at it yet. So as you develop in your own skin and in your own character, you will develop your own rules of the game. I only speak to what I know. I then will give you a qualifier that will tell you how I know what I know. That's why I try to introduce so many at the beginning of my segments to say, you are listening to somebody who has had 9 exits. That means I built, I grew, and I exited 9 different companies. I've had 53,000 employees, and I've never been sued. Think about that for a second. And so that is who you are listening to. It is not, I'm giving you the theory of being an entrepreneur. I'm not giving you the theory of how to herd cats to get people in the right butt, doing the right thing at the right reward. It is what I have done successfully over and over and over again, and in the process of doing it for number 10. And so that's who you're listening to. Now, in that journey of what I call paper success, we can talk about the real success, so what I consider success in my life. I can consider success that my best friend was my ex. That not only did we spend 14 years together, we then spent an additional 10 years as very successful co-parents. Everybody who knows me, they know my ex, they see us, people always thought we were still together. And so the fact that I just lost somebody who had been in my life for 24 years is an extreme loss. So the question becomes, how am I functioning? The tools, who I surround myself, the systems, and the base of who I am. I know who I am, not what I have to pretend to be for you, because how you feel about me is irrelevant. What is relevant is how I feel about me. And one of my truths, one of my shoulds, is that I want to give you the best of Amilya, not the leftovers. So when I feel like I'm at a place where I'm not able to serve you at my best, then I introduce my presence with, hey, listen, I just want to give you a heads up. I'm really happy that I'm here. I'm not my best today. So if I falter or feel weird to you in any way, shape, or form, I just want you to know it's not you, it's me. That sets the tone to always have success. Any comments? Any thoughts? Any questions?
Quick Amilya, question, Amilya. Amilya, it's Maria. When you say that, do you say it to yourself or do you say it to the person in front of you? I think I need to say that to myself first. I'm just answering my question, and I'm sorry, but I'm just curious to know from your perspective, are you saying I'm not the best version of myself, it's not you, it's me, to yourself first and then to someone else, or are you just saying it to someone else? That's a great
question. So the first part, right? So the success formula is 50% in thinking, 20% in planning, and then 20% in execution. Most people miss the bullseye because they skipped over 75% of the equation, right? They get a thought and they go immediately to execution. So what you're talking about is first to come into awareness, right? Just doing that self check, like, I check my mind, I check my body, I check my spirit, and then to come to the awareness that, ooh, I'm not actually at my best right now. Because if you come to the awareness that you're not at your best, now you can make some decisions like, I really have to make sure I stay hydrated today. I really have to make sure I maybe move away from energy suckers, those people that require more energy than you're willing, because you'll die at like 12 o'clock. You won't get through the whole day. And so being aware first that you're not at your best gives you the power to make decisions. Then the second part of it is to now communicate where you're at to people that you're interacting with. It gives you tons of information about the people in your life. Let me give you an example. I love this. I love when you go, hey, listen, I really want to spend some time with you. I only have about 15 minutes because I have another call. And that person says okay and then tries to chat for an hour, right? Because they didn't listen to the boundary, the rules of the game that you set in the beginning. Same thing when you're like, hey, listen, right now I'm tired, so I'm probably not going to be so talkative. And then that person goes, hey, let's sit down and have a discussion. You're like, what? Didn't I just say? Right? And so when you announce where you're at and have the ability to watch how people do or do not respect the boundary you just put up, it tells you a lot about who you're spending time with. But it also sets the situation up for success. So if I say to you, hey, listen, I love you and I care about you, and Maria, you're awesome, by the way, but I don't feel like I have the ability to serve you at my best. It gives you the opportunity, Maria, to say, okay, Amilya, listen, maybe what you need to do right now is let's not have this conversation, and why don't we pick it up next week, because you only want the best, or you give me an opportunity for me to receive that love and give myself what I need, right? And then that shows me that we have a healthy upon healthy relationship, right? There's always two sides. And that is what I'm talking about, is learning the communication skills to speak your truth. Because it's okay if you're not at your best. I love you for who you are. I accept you for exactly where you are. And I can love you not at your best. And I can do that by doing things differently, not to contribute to what already is a weakness that you're having right now, and still be able to move forward. And I think because we've learned, because of marketing and social media, that everything is perfect and everything's gorgeous and everything's hunky-dory, we're masking, we just show up to situations pretending everything's okay without saying, hey, listen, I'm really not my best version of myself right now, but I still want to be here. I'm tired, or I haven't, again, people are angry. I'm definitely want to tell you that I get angry. I'll be like, hey, listen, I'm on this Zoom call, going to be snacking for a moment because me snacking is going to allow me to be present in this conversation. Because if I wait till the end of the call, I'm not even listening. I'm so hungry, I'm not even listening to what you're saying. And so I think we need to get to a society where we're okay speaking our truth and learning to accept, which is to receive, people for where they are, not where we want them to be, right? So if I'm saying I'm not at my best and you're saying I need you to be at your best, well, we have to do something different because I'm not at my best. And I don't have any ability to pretend that it's something different. Maria, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. Wow, I'm going to digest that. Thank you.
Thank you. Somebody else was chiming in, and I heard both voices at the same time. And
that was me, Amelia. As Shante, I was the one that asked the question about, clarifying with, your experience versus your loved ones, because I was really trying to get professional integrity is really important for me when I'm, sharing content with people. And so, like, my daughter, collapsed. I got the worst call that you can get from a school. And it was an issue with the potassium. And so I've come across people who've been asking for that information. And I guess I wanted to have the right kind of words in how I'm presenting the information, just with what I did with her doctor and myself as her mother to get her back to where she needed to be, as well as in a hypertension phase. I only experienced it through, pregnancy, but not like others do. So I just wanted to see how to best say it, present that information, excuse me.
Well, and I think there's two folds to that, right? Because you actually are her parent. You can say, as a parent, here's what I witnessed, here's what happened, here's what I did. And when I asked her about her experience, here's what she said. See, that is powerful. Does that make sense?
I love that. Thank you so much. That really, really helps. Oh, thank you.
And see, this is what I keep saying. Ask me. This is how I can show you real life behavior modifications just to tweak something, and it makes the entire presentation stronger, right, all the way around, because it's the language. You have the intent to communicate what you want to communicate. I'm just pairing for you the language and the actions to go with it.
Hey,
Tony,
TM.
Oh, hey, TM.
Hey, my friend. Good morning and congratulations on the book. I'm driving, but as soon as I pause, I'm going to order this book. Listen, thank you for all the value. When we talk about trying to communicate with others, I think awareness, self-awareness is so important. Someone mentioned, a few moments ago, do I talk to myself first or do I share it with the other person? I think awareness, or sometimes the lack of awareness, hinders us in our ability to communicate. I was just speaking to someone yesterday about physiognomy, and they were like, "What is that?"
You're going into the matrix, TM.
We lost it, TM. But just to add to that, again, I'm always going to refer to some of the gains. So I think he's all the way in the matrix, Tony. I think he's all the way there.
He's in deep. Yeah, let's just go ahead and mute him, and he'll flash back in if he can.
Ultimately,
I don't know how to do that, Tony.
My facial expression, right?
So here's another thing, again, where we kind of get off track. When we talk to ourselves, right? You have to remember that we only have one perspective on who we are. We only have one perspective on how we think others palate us. But that isn't the truth. How you see yourself is not how the world sees yourself, right? And a good example for this, if you really want to lean in, is listen to yourself speak. Like if I go back and listen to my own recordings, it's like nails on a chalkboard, that to listen to my own voice or to watch my own videos, right? For me, it's painful. But I force myself to do it because I need to understand and build a relationship with the person that you all are seeing and hearing, and then close the gap between what I intend and how I intend to show up and how I intend to be heard and how I intend to be seen versus what is actual. And what we have been conditioned is to live in the lie. We call it the story we tell ourselves, whole other chapter of the book, the story you want to tell yourself. And that is how we allow ourselves to get so far off track. So I'll just give you a weight analogy. Gain 20 pounds overnight. It didn't happen last night. Last night, I didn't wake up and go, wow, look at that. I gained 20 pounds last night. It happens gradually over time. But you can't see it because you are not staying in your reflection, because you're not listening and you're not looking. You're avoiding. What are you avoiding? You're avoiding your reflection of your truth. And so we learn how to deny our authentic self. We learn how to deny it, not look, not pay attention. And so this happens on a greater level with how we show up with money, how we show up with time, how we show up with intimacy, how we show up in value. We do the same thing. We live in the idea of what we think it is, but our behavior doesn't match our idea. And so learning these tools allows you, A, to get a clear reflection and then close the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Because I promise you, where you are and where you want to be, the only thing that's in the middle is a behavior.
Yes, it's you. It's absolutely, you know, and just to comment on what you were saying before, the words we use to ourselves, the person in the mirror, how you're showing up, you need to know how you're showing up. So having that conversation with yourself, and just to speak into what you said, and I'll just take a minute, and saying that self-care is epically important. Self-care is not selfish. Self-care is essential, because if you're not taking care of yourself, you're showing up as a weaker, lesser version of you to your family, to your friends, to the world. So I'm going to jump in and say that it's actually selfish not to practice self-care. It's selfish not to put in those boundaries. It's selfish not to take care of you, because you're depriving your family, your friends, in the world of the best version of you. So self-care is essential.
It's more than that. So again,
of course, right? That's just the beginning.
No. Give me 1 second, okay? The reason why it's selfish, if I don't take care of me, I am assuming you will. I am pushing it over on you. I'm not taking care of me, but you will. And so that is where the selfishness comes in.
Right, and then you get upset because I didn't read your mind.
Exactly, and because you're not doing more. You're not making the choices for me, when the reality is I have to make those choices for myself. That's what I mean when you crawl all over somebody else's side, right? And again, we talk about in the book, how do I stay on my side? How do I stay in my truth? How do I build my story and then connect with others? The ultimate intimacy is for me to be in full awareness, to show up as what my idea of me is and the actual what I give you, and you to do the same. Two people who connect on that level have the depth of intimacy that most people dream about.
Well,
why do people don't have it? Because they won't do their side of the work.
Well, and it goes even a little deeper than that. Oftentimes we give to our partner what it is that we want instead of giving them what they want, just like in business. In business, some people try to give their customers what they want. No, stop. You need to give them what they want, not what you want. For example, if I'm going to make eggs for my wife every single morning and she hates eggs, it doesn't matter how much love I put into them. She doesn't like eggs. She might even eat them because I made them out of love for me, but I'm not really taking care of her. So figure out what that quote unquote love language is, how they want to be taken care of, and give them what they want, not what you want to give them.
And I remind people, again, with those little behavior nuggets, in a new relationship, that's the honeymoon phase, a new relationship with a client, a new relationship with a loved one, a lover, a sex partner, a new whatever. In the new relationship, generally speaking, the female energy will treat you the way she wants to be treated for the first year-ish, and then will mimic back the way you're treating her.
Yes.
So that's why the beginning feels so good, because she's giving exactly what she wants from you and then doesn't get it, shoves out resentment energy, and then says, fine, I'm just going to give you what you're giving me.
And by the way, it works the other way as well.
Catch that, right. If you don't know how to catch that, the resistance energy is what's sucking down the relationship, because that switch happened and you didn't even know that was the game that was being played. I just want, before we, TM, are you still there? Because you went into the land of the abyss. So if you are there, I want to hear what you're saying.
I am here. I love this discussion, Amelia. My question was leading to how important, from your perspective, is physiognomy and body language when you talk about behavior, right? Because I think often we aren't aware, right, of our physiognomy, which is our facial expressions and our body language. Sometimes it speaks louder than our words. Your thoughts?
Well, so this is what's called mixed messaging, right? And this is why kids get confused with their parents all the time, because my mouth is saying, I love you, but my face looks angry and my body looks standoffish. And then the kid is going, I don't know what's going on over there, right? And then the parents will say, well, you're not responding. Well, because the messages are mixed, right? And so when you learn the alignment between your body, your intention, and how you're showing up, that's how you can really start to learn to actually land a message, to land the message you intended. Until you receive what I intended, the responsibility is on my side. Now, my face and my body and my words and my energy are just tools that I can use to land my message. The more you understand how the tools work, the more impactful you become in your entity. And with that note, I see that Jakey Bakey is on stage. I don't see Dave Meltzer yet, but I know he's going to magically appear. Good morning, Mr. Jake. How are you, sir?
I am doing well. How are you, Amelia? Thank you.
I'm doing fantastic. I want to be able to thank everybody who came in this morning. Thank you, thank you, thank you. For Glenn Lundy, thank you so much for the promotion of the book. If you do not have your copy of Designing Genius, that's going to lead you into our 3 calls on parenting, money, and relationships. Please get them now. And I'm going to turn over the mic to Amazing. Oh, go ahead, Tony.
No, I'm just going to say, let's just close this up and say that we are, again, click that link above and order that book because it has all of this that we're talking about and so much more. So make sure that you're following Amelia, not just here on Clubhouse, on other social media platforms. Order the book. And if you want to perhaps have Amelia come to your company, to your city, to your town, go to Amilya.com. You can set that up there as well. And with that said, we are grateful to have you here. Do us all a favor, click that button on the bottom, share this room, invite some more people. We have the one and only, the amazing Dave Meltzer coming in to share his wisdom, his knowledge for the next hour. Yes. And then we will be back again at 11 o'clock with a fabulous guest to dive in even deeper into the conversations, the money conversation and everything in between. So thank you everyone for being here. Amelia, on fire as always, and turn it over to Dave and Jake.